What's going on, guys? It's your boy CMB. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and let's get into this one really quickly. Now, guys, I want to talk a little bit about the 147-pound division, the welterweight division, and just the craziness that's going on right now in this glamour division. Now, the rumor is that Errol the True Spence Jr., who is the unified welterweight champion, will be facing his mandatory Keith one-time Thurman in April of this year. Now, the big news about that is that the fight will be taking place at 154 pounds instead of 147. So, of course, that left people with a lot of questions. One is, would that fulfill the obligation, his mandatory obligation to the WBC, even though he's fighting Keith Thurman at 154 pounds and not 147. Now, the president of the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, was on The Boxing Voice with Nestor Gibbs, and he said that, that fight basically would fulfill Errol Spence's mandatory obligations, even though it's at 154 pounds. So that question has been answered. Now, the thing is, a lot of people are speculating if Errol goes up to 154 pounds to face off against Keith Thurman, would he come back to 147 to face off against Terence Crawford for undisputed at 147? Will that be his move if he's able to get past Keith one-time Thurman? And a lot of fighters out there have had their opinions on that. I think Jerron Ennis said that it's not likely that he'll come back to 147. I think I heard Showtime Sean Porter say that that fight's probably going to happen at 154. And recently, Chris Algieri came out and says that he thinks that fight happening at 154 instead of 147 takes away from the fight. Basically, it kind of tarnishes the fight if they fight at 154. So the question is, will Errol be willing to go back down to 147 pounds to face off against Terence Crawford to become undisputed? We know Errol said he's tired of, trying to make that weight at 147. It's kind of hard to make, but at the same time, he's also said that, he wants to be undisputed before leaving that weight class. So we're just going to have to wait and see what he says. So I want to read a little bit of what Chris Algieri had to say about this situation here. I'm going to quote him here. He says he's talking about the fight with Keith Thurman. He says here, it's another good litmus test to see how good Spence is and how above and beyond the other competition there is and how much we need the Crawford fight. But the fact that it's at 154 means that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence is never going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen at 147. I can't imagine that Errol Spence at 32 years of age, moving up to 154, is going to fight Thurman at 154 and then move back to 147 to defend his titles and then fight Crawford. I just don't see that realistically happening. So Chris Algieri, like I said, he's on the bandwagon too, that thinks if Errol faces Keith Thurman at 154, he won't go back to face Terence Crawford at 147 pounds. I kind of see it differently. I think that Errol does want to be undisputed before he leaves the weight class. And, it wouldn't be anything new that we've seen before. We've seen Canelo Alvarez go, back and forth between different weight classes to have different fights. We just saw him go up to 175 pounds to face off against Dimitri Bivol, come back down to 168. We've seen him fight at 160. So it wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, in my opinion. But I think if Errol really wants to be undisputed, he's not going to let, him not liking going back to 147 or making the 147 pound weight stop him from becoming undisputed to face off against Terence Crawford. I just don't see it. It's important. It's a part of his legacy, and it's not like he can't make 147. We've seen him do it multiple times, and sure, it's hard, but he does have the discipline. We've seen him. He looked like an action figure in the last fight against Jordanis Ugas. So I still have hopes that they'll face each other at 147 pounds. I could be wrong, but I think undisputed is important to both of these fighters at 147 pounds. Him wanting to face off against Keith Thurman at 154, I'm not quite sure why that's happening there. I did give, my thoughts on that in the last video I made about the two. Maybe he doesn't want to give Keith a crack at the titles. Maybe he doesn't want to put the titles in jeopardy. Maybe that's the case. Whatever it is, I still think if he gets past Keith Thurman, I still think the fight will happen at 147 pounds. I could be wrong, but I'm going to stick with it. So you guys tell me what you think about Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford. Do you still want to see that fight? And if the fight happens, do you want to see it at 147 or do you want to see it at 154 pounds? You guys let me know about that in the comment section. It's the CMB. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And I'm out. Peace.